Silence after heartbreak isn't weakness. It's the funeral of the old you and the birth of someone untouchable. Now let me ask you something, folks. Have you ever really wondered what goes through someone's head when they ignore you, when they reject someone who actually cared for them? Be honest. You loved them. You tried for them. You gave your time, your energy, your loyalty, and yet they treated you with indifference, almost like you were invisible. It's like being the main character in a movie, but the other person never even bought a ticket to watch. And then it happened. You went quiet. You didn't slam doors. You didn't throw words like knives. You simply disappeared into silence. No calls, no long texts, no begging for their attention, just stillness. But here's the question, my friends. What if that silence wasn't the unexpected move you thought it was? What if they were already counting on it? What if they knew, deep down, that after giving and giving and giving, you'd eventually hit your limit and pull back? Picture them leaning back in their chair, arms crossed, a smug little grin creeping across their face. In their head, your silence isn't heavy, it's predictable. "Oh, of course," they say. "I knew this would happen. They always give up eventually. Nothing new here." To them, your silence isn't mystery, it isn't strength, it isn't thunder. It's background noise, something they saw coming from a mile away. And isn't that thought unsettling, that you're sitting in silence, hoping it will shake them while they're actually laughing at it? That instead of missing you, they're congratulating themselves, patting themselves on the back like they just won a game. But hold on, let's have a little fun with this idea. Imagine a magician who keeps pulling the same rabbit out of the same hat every single show. At first, the crowd gasps. Then, after the 10th time, the audience yawns. Oh, the rabbit again. How original. That's how some of these people view your silence. They don't see it as powerful. They see it as routine, predictable, boring. And that's why, folks, we need to talk about this, because silence, when it's unexpected, can feel like a bomb going off. It shocks, it stuns, it changes the atmosphere. But silence, when it's expected, it can look to them like a simple shrug. And here's the twisted part. They'll use that to feed their ego. They'll tell themselves, "See, I knew it. I knew I had them figured out. They can't hurt me. Their silence is nothing." But let me flip the script for you, because this isn't about them. It was never about them. You see, they think your silence is their victory, but in reality, your silence is your rebirth. It's the funeral of the old you, the one who begged, chased, checked their phone every 2 minutes. That version of you has been buried. And in its place, a new you rises, stronger, sharper, stoic, untouchable. Here's a metaphor for you. Silence is like a storm. When it comes out of nowhere, it shakes the ground. But even when people expect rain, they rarely understand how cleansing a storm can be. They might laugh at the thunder, but they can't stop the flood that follows. That's your silence. It doesn't exist to impress them. It exists to wash them out of your system, to clean your soul, to make space for new growth. And let me sprinkle in a little Stoic wisdom here. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Think about that. Your silence isn't supposed to control them. It's supposed to control you. It's not about making them regret. It's about helping you heal. It's about reclaiming your peace, one quiet day at a time. But here's the funny part, my friends. They still think it's about them. They sit there with their cheap coffee, smirking, convinced that your silence is just another move in their game. Isn't that hilarious? It's like someone stealing your notebook and thinking they're the author of your story. No, my friends, you've already started writing a new chapter, and guess what? They're not even in it. Let's be real, silence is hard. Anyone who's been through heartbreak knows this. It's not easy to resist the urge to text, to call, to check their page just one more time. Silence feels like fighting an army inside your own head. But that's why it's powerful. That's why it matters. Because every time you choose silence, you're choosing yourself. You're choosing dignity over drama. You're choosing wisdom over weakness. You're choosing peace over chaos. So say it with me. My silence is my strength. Not my silence is a trap for them. Not my silence is a tool to make them jealous. No, my silence is my strength. Drop it in the comments. Write it on your wall. Whisper it before you sleep. Let it become your mantra, because once you truly believe that, their laughter won't matter anymore. And oh, how ironic it is. While they think your silence means you've vanished, you're actually growing louder in a way they can't hear. You're shining brighter in a way they can't dim. You're building a life they can't touch. Silence doesn't make you invisible. It makes you untouchable. Picture this. They think you're done, forgotten, erased, but really you're like a seed in the soil, silent, unseen, but preparing to bloom into something far greater than they ever imagined. And when you finally rise, they'll realize your silence wasn't weakness, it was transformation. So let them laugh, let them smirk, let them think they've won, because while they're busy celebrating your silence, you're busy becoming someone they'll never have access to again. And that, my friends, is the kind of silence that roars louder than any words ever could. Because remember, silence after heartbreak isn't weakness. It's the funeral of the old you and the birth of someone untouchable. Number 1, they think they've won, but they haven't. My friends, let's be real for a moment. Silence after heartbreak is not just silence. It's a battlefield, it's a gamble, it's a storm that people misread all the time. And here's the first ugly truth. They think your silence means they've won. In their mind, your quiet is not dignity, not peace, not transformation. It's defeat. They sit there, maybe scrolling on their phone, maybe bragging to a friend, whispering to themselves, "I knew it. I knew they'd disappear. I broke them." But, oh, my friends, what a tragic miscalculation. Let me ask you, have you ever played a game with someone who thought they won before the game even ended? Like that one friend in Monopoly who screams "victory" after buying 2 properties while you're sitting there quietly holding half the board. That's your ex right now, celebrating way too soon. They see your silence and think it's the end of the story. But silence, folks, is never what it seems. See, to them, your withdrawal is proof they've reduced you to nothing but a faint echo, a memory fading out of their world. They see you as weak, irrelevant, already erased. But that's their first mistake. Assuming silence equals surrender. Let me drop a quote on you here. Never assume that quiet means defeat. Sometimes quiet is where the most dangerous power is gathering. They can't understand this because they live for drama. They expect begging, crying, endless conversations, wild text messages at 2 a.m. They want explosions, not stillness. They feed off chaos because chaos reassures them that they still matter. And when you don't give them that, when you go silent instead, they convince themselves it's victory. But here's the kicker. They don't see silence as strength. They see it as a tactic. In their twisted little world, they assume everyone operates the same way they do. Push, pull, retreat, return, guilt trips, games, emotional chess. They think your silence is just another cheap move to bait them into chasing you. And oh, my friends, how wrong they are. Because your silence isn't about them at all. It's not a trick. It's not a ploy. It's not a desperate attempt to reel them back in. Your silence is freedom. It's your exit from the toxic circus. It's you standing up and saying, "This show is over. I'm not dancing anymore." But let's be honest, folks, it's not easy to reach that place. Silence is one of the hardest things you'll ever do after heartbreak. Why? Because silence goes against every desperate urge you feel inside. You want to scream at them, tell them what they lost, prove you mattered. You want to text them late at night when the memories feel too heavy. You want to peek at their profile just to see if maybe they're missing you. Silence means fighting your own impulses, your own fears, your own heart. And here's why they think you'll break it. Because they would. People who manipulate can't stand silence. They can't stand not being in control of your reactions. For them, silence is a weapon. They've used it on you before, to guilt trip, to confuse, to pull you back in. So when you go quiet, they assume you're doing the same thing, that you're waiting, hoping, plotting. But your silence isn't like theirs. It's not a weapon. It's a declaration that they don't matter anymore, that you've cut the strings they thought they were pulling, that the game they're still playing, you're not even in the arena. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine two people in a boxing ring. One throws punches, dances around, tries to land a hit. The other walks calmly out of the ring. No punches, no shouting, no drama, just exits. The fighter left behind is screaming, "Come back, fight me!" But you're already gone. That's your silence. That's the one move they never saw coming. Now let me tell you why it shakes them so much, even if they won't admit it. Because when you stop reacting, their reality starts cracking. See, manipulators survive off your energy. They need your emotions to prove they still have control. They expect you to send that last long message, to call late at night, to remind them that you still care. Because as long as you care, they win. That's the oxygen they breathe. But when you don't give it, when your silence is not a pause, but a permanent break, that's when the panic sets in. Because suddenly their tricks don't work, their games don't matter, their ego has nothing to feed on. And deep down, they know it. Here's another quote for you, folks. When you stop responding, they stop existing in your world. And that's what your silence really is. It's erasing them. It's saying, you no longer take up space in my life, my mind, or my heart. Now, let me hit you with a hard truth. This won't make them admit defeat right away. At first, they'll laugh, they'll smirk, they'll act like it doesn't bother them, they'll brag that you finally disappeared. But give it time, because laughter fades quickly when silence stretches on. At some point, they'll realize your quiet isn't about them, it's about you, and by then, it's far too late. They never won. They never even understood the game. While they were busy trying to look like champions in a game of manipulation, you walked off the field and started building a whole new life. One where they don't exist. One where your peace, your strength, and your future matter more than their attention ever could. So let them think they've won. Let them believe they cracked your code. Let them underestimate the weight of your silence. Because here's the real twist. They're still stuck in their little cycle, replaying the same games. Meanwhile, you've already risen above. Say it with me, my friends. My silence isn't a game. It's my freedom. Drop it in the comments right now. Show yourself. Show them. Show the whole world that you're not silent because you're broken. You're silent because you're free. And trust me, this is only the beginning. Because if they think your silence is the end of their story, they haven't even seen what comes next. Number 2. The mask they wear is cracking. My friends, let's talk about something everyone eventually sees, but at first refuses to admit: the mask. Yes, that mask they wear every single day. You know the one, built from lies, arrogance, and a fake kind of confidence that looks shiny from the outside, but feels empty the closer you get. To the outside world, they look untouchable, confident, charming. They walk into a room and act like the main character in a movie, only they're watching. They play the role of someone in control, someone superior, someone who always wins. But here's the truth they don't want anyone, especially you, to see. Behind that mask is fear. Behind it is insecurity. Behind it is emptiness. And you've felt it, haven't you? Something never quite added up. The way they smiled, but the eyes didn't match. The way they talked big, but got defensive over the smallest things. The way they boasted about being strong, but crumbled the moment you challenged their control. Folks, it's because that mask isn't steel, it's glass, fragile, brittle, and every lie they tell, every person they hurt, every manipulation they pull adds another crack. Oh, they'll pretend it's not cracking. They'll strut around like peacocks, act like everything's fine, keep that rehearsed grin glued to their face. But deep down, they know. They can feel the pressure. They can feel the cracks spreading. And the more they try to patch it up with arrogance, the more obvious those fractures become. Why do they even wear it? Because the truth terrifies them. The idea of being ordinary, forgotten, unimportant, it eats at them. They can't bear to be seen as weak, so they hide their trembling soul behind a wall of arrogance. They put on their mask like armor, hoping you'll never notice the hollow person underneath. And for a while, it worked, didn't it? Let's be honest, they fooled you. They had you believing they were confident, strong, someone worthy of your time, energy, and love. They acted like they were this larger-than-life figure in your story, while treating you like you were disposable. They made you second-guess yourself, doubt your worth, question your reality, all while standing there, cool and calm, behind their mask. But then came the shift. Then came the silence. Then came your awakening. The moment you began to see through that mask, the game changed forever. They thought you'd stay blind forever. They thought you'd keep feeding their ego, keep falling for their half-smiles and hollow words. They thought you'd never notice the cracks. But now, my friends, you know. And once you know, you can't unknow. You've realized that every time they ignored you, dismissed your feelings, or played games with your emotions, it wasn't strength, it was weakness, it wasn't confidence, it was fear. Their mask wasn't proof they were powerful, it was proof they were crumbling behind the scenes. Think about it. If someone is truly strong, do they need to put on an act? Do they need to manipulate, deceive, and control? No. Real strength doesn't need a mask. Real strength is quiet, calm, steady. Their arrogance wasn't power, it was desperation, a drowning person waving their arms to hide the fact they're sinking. And here's the part they'll never admit. Behind that mask is someone terrified of exposure, someone who can't stand the thought of being vulnerable, honest, or real. They've spent their whole life hiding from themselves, burying insecurities under layers of deception. But life has a way of catching up. The truth has a way of pushing through. And no matter how carefully they try to hold it together, the mask is cracking. They can't wear it forever. Every lie adds pressure. Every manipulative game leaves a scar. Every broken heart carves another fracture into that glass facade. And eventually, folks, even the thickest mask shatters. And when it does, oh, it won't be pretty. No more lies to hide behind, no more games to play, no more audience clapping for their performance, just the cold, harsh truth staring back at them in the mirror that they were never as strong as they pretended to be. That their so-called power was never real. It was only borrowed from the people they tricked into believing it. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster." But that's exactly what happened to them. They tried so hard to hide their fears, so hard to appear invincible, that they became the very monster they were running from, a hollow shell of a human being, needing to control others just to feel important. But here's the beautiful contrast, my friends. You don't need a mask. You don't need to pretend. You've been through heartbreak, betrayal, rejection, and you faced it head on. You cried, you broke, you healed. And out of all of that you became stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Not because you faked confidence, but because you embraced your truth. You tore your mask off. You looked your pain in the eye and said, "I'm still here." That is real strength. While their world is built on illusions, your world is built on authenticity. They survive on lies. You thrive on truth. They hide from reality. You own yours. And that difference, my friends, is exactly why their mask is cracking while you're rising. So let them wear their mask. Let them parade around acting untouchable. You don't need to expose them. Their own actions will do that. Every lie they tell makes the cracks wider. Every manipulation they try makes their mask thinner. And eventually it will break on its own, piece by piece, until nothing is left but the empty person underneath. And when that day comes, they'll realize what you already know. They were never as powerful as they pretended to be, and you were never as weak as they hoped you'd be. Say it with me. I see through the mask. Write it in the comments. Show yourself. Show them. Show the world around you that you've woken up, that you refuse to be fooled by illusions anymore, that you've chosen truth over lies. Authenticity over deception, strength over weakness. Because while they're desperately clinging to their fragile facade, patching up the cracks with more lies and fake smiles, you've already moved on. You've already risen higher than they ever imagined you could. And when that mask finally shatters, they'll be left standing in the ruins of their own false identity, while you stand tall, unshaken, untouchable. And oh, my friends, if you thought the mask cracking was powerful, wait until you see what comes next. Number 3. What they never expected. So folks, by now we already know what they were expecting. They expected drama. They expected begging. They expected late-night texts filled with pain and desperation. They expected you to collapse under the weight of heartbreak. They thought they had you so figured out that your every move would be predictable. But let me flip the script. Do you know what they never expected? Oh, they were not ready for what was coming next. They thought they knew you. They thought they had your limits measured, your breaking point mapped out like some GPS system. They expected your silence to be a slow fade into nothingness, like a candle burning down to smoke. But what they never saw coming was that your silence wasn't the end. It was the beginning, the birthplace of something far greater than they could ever imagine. Because silence, my friends, is not emptiness. Silence is potential. Silence is energy gathering in the shadows. It's the pause before the music drops. It's the moment in a movie when the screen goes black and the audience leans forward, knowing something big is about to explode. They never expected your silence to be the birthplace of your rebirth. Let's be real, they thought they'd written the final chapter of your story, a sad, tragic ending where you stayed trapped in memories, mourning what could have been, replaying old conversations like broken records. But you were never the ending, you were the twist, you were the shock they didn't see coming. You became the kind of plot twist that leaves people staring at the credits, speechless. While they sit there smug, thinking you've disappeared into the shadows, you're actually building in those very shadows. You're becoming something they can't comprehend, unshakable, unstoppable, untouchable. Think about a volcano. On the surface, it looks calm, lifeless, silent. People walk by it every day thinking, oh, nothing's happening here. But beneath the surface, pressure is rising, power is gathering, and one day without warning the eruption comes, unstoppable, undeniable, impossible to ignore. That's you. They thought they buried you under the rubble they left behind, but what they never expected was that you were quietly rebuilding yourself in that rubble. They thought they burned you down, but they didn't realize ashes are where legends are born. Janet Fitch once said, "The phoenix must burn to emerge." And my friends, that's you, the phoenix. They thought they had destroyed you, but instead they created the fire that birthed your new strength. You turned destruction into creation. You turned heartbreak into fuel. You turned silence into a roar the world won't be able to tune out. They were expecting a victim. What they never expected was a warrior. Because while they were busy patting themselves on the back, celebrating your downfall, you were sharpening your mind, strengthening your spirit, and building your future. Every tear you shed became a lesson. Every lonely night became a forge where you molded resilience. Every doubt whispered in your ear became fuel to prove to yourself that you're stronger than fear. And oh, when they finally realize what you've become, it'll already be too late. They thought your silence was weakness, a sign you were waiting for them. They thought you needed them. They thought your quiet was a desperate strategy to make them miss you. But here's the truth. They were dead wrong. You didn't fall silent because you were broken. You fell silent because you were done. Done chasing, done explaining, done wasting precious energy on someone who couldn't even see your worth when it was right in front of them. And here's the best part. You took all that energy you used to pour into them and you turned it inward, into your goals, into your healing, into your dreams, into becoming the person they will never have access to again. Frank Sinatra once said, "The best revenge is massive success." But let's get this clear. It's not about revenge. It was never about showing them, never about proving yourself to someone who couldn't even recognize your value. It's about living so well, so fully, so fearlessly, that their opinion simply doesn't matter anymore. You're not even looking back. You're too busy moving forward. And here's what they'll never understand. You're not coming back to them, not even to prove a point. You're not playing games. You're not sitting around hoping they'll regret. You've left the board entirely. They're still stuck replaying old moves while you're out there living a brand new game they don't even have the rules for. You are the storm they never saw coming. Think of it like this. A lion doesn't need to roar every 5 seconds to prove it's the king of the jungle. Its presence alone commands respect. And that's you now. You don't need to announce your transformation. You don't need to explain yourself. Your silence is the announcement. Your absence is the echo they can't escape. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." They expected a reaction. They expected anger, tears, long paragraphs, blocked and unblocked calls. but instead your lack of response broke the very illusion of power they thought they had. They were pulling strings, but you had already cut them. They thought they were the puppeteer, but the truth? The show is over. And oh, my friends, when that realization hits them, it will hit hard, because they'll sit there, confused, wondering where you went, what you're doing, if you ever cared. But by the time they start wondering, you'll already be miles ahead, living your life, thriving, free from the cage they tried to lock you in. So let them keep guessing. Let them keep thinking you're playing games. Let them keep analyzing your silence like detectives looking for clues. None of it matters, because while they're busy overthinking, you're busy outgrowing. Say it with me, folks. I am the storm they never saw coming. Drop it in the comments. Declare it loud. Own it. Show yourself. Show them. Show the entire world that your silence isn't about defeat. It's about transformation, that you didn't fade into nothing, you rose into everything, because you, my friends, are the ending they never expected, and the beginning they'll never escape. Number 4. Reclaiming power like a Stoic. My friends, let me paint you a picture. Imagine a ship lost at sea, battered by relentless storms. The waves slam against its sides, the wind howls like a pack of wolves, and for a moment it seems like that ship might break apart. But deep within its core lies something no storm can touch, an anchor, silent, unseen, yet unyielding. No matter how violent the chaos above, that anchor holds. Now here's the truth. You are that ship, and your inner strength, your ability to stay calm when the world tries to shake you, is your anchor. That's what reclaiming power like a Stoic really means. It's not about wrestling the storm into submission. It's about standing unshakable inside the storm, knowing nothing outside of you can break what you've built within. But here's what's interesting, folks. The people who laughed at your silence, who thought they'd defeated you, they were betting against you. They assumed you'd drift away like every other broken soul, swallowed by waves of heartbreak and self-doubt. They thought you'd sink. But what they never counted on was your anchor. Because reclaiming power like a Stoic is realizing you no longer need their validation, their approval, or their acknowledgement. Your power isn't tied to what happens around you. It's rooted in what happens within you. And once you realize that, no storm can sink you. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That, my friends, is the ultimate truth. Control your mind, and you control everything. The person who can master their emotions is a person no one can manipulate. They can throw insults. They can stir chaos. They can try to drag you into games. But if you remain centered, none of it can touch you. But here's where a lot of people get it twisted. Reclaiming power like a Stoic isn't about pretending you don't feel anything. It's not about ignoring pain, bottling it up, or acting like you're made of stone. No, true Stoicism is about facing the pain, processing it, and then releasing it. It's refusing to let external chaos dictate your internal peace. It's knowing your worth isn't defined by how someone else treats you, but by how you choose to respond. Let me give you a metaphor. Picture a single candle burning in the darkness. No matter how thick the night grows, that flame continues to shine, quietly, steadily, without needing applause. The darkness cannot extinguish it because its fire doesn't come from the outside. It comes from within. That's you. They thought your silence meant you'd been snuffed out, that they had put out your light. But in reality, you've been burning brighter than ever, just beyond their reach. The only reason they can't see it is because they're too busy searching for fireworks when they should have been paying attention to the steady flame that never dies. Reclaiming power like a Stoic means knowing when to walk away, not to make a statement, not to win an argument, but because you've outgrown what no longer serves you. It means choosing your battles wisely, understanding that not every insult, betrayal, or slight deserves a reaction. Sometimes the greatest strength is not engaging at all. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, said it best: "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." And isn't that exactly what they were? Poor in spirit, starving for control, craving power over you. They thrived on making you doubt yourself, on pulling your strings, on controlling your emotions. But here's the beauty. You've taken away the one thing they can't live without, your attention, because the moment you stop reacting, you reclaim your energy. The second you stop seeking closure, you reclaim your peace. And when you stop needing them to recognize your value, you reclaim your freedom. They thought they were the puppeteers, holding the strings of your emotions, dangling you around like a marionette. But what they didn't realize is that the power to cut those strings was always in your hand. They expected you to be the puppet forever, but you were never the puppet. You were the one holding the blade. Reclaiming power like a Stoic is becoming self-sufficient. It's recognizing that your happiness, your success, your future, none of it depends on them. None of it ever did. You don't need their recognition. You don't need their apology. You don't need their attention. You've always been worthy, and now you finally believe it. See, they thought power came from making others submit, but real power doesn't come from dominating someone else. Real power comes from rising above. It comes from standing tall when everything around you tries to break you. It comes from being your own rescue, from becoming the kind of person who no longer needs anyone to come back, explain, or make amends. Epictetus said, "We suffer not from events, but from our judgments about them." And that's the wisdom of the Stoics. You can't change what they did. You can't rewrite the past, but you can decide how to judge it, how to interpret it, how to let it shape your future. You can let it make you bitter, or you can let it make you better. That choice is always yours. Because here's the truth they'll never admit. The most dangerous person in the world is someone who doesn't need anything from anyone. Someone who is whole, complete, and at peace within themselves. That's you now. You've reclaimed your power, not by shouting, not by getting revenge, not by chasing them down for closure. You've reclaimed it by transforming, by mastering yourself, by realizing that the world outside is always chaos, but the world inside can be unshakable if you build it strong enough. They thought your silence was defeat, but in reality it was a declaration, a quiet statement that says, "I no longer live in your world, follow your rules, or seek your approval." Say it with me, folks. I reclaim my power. Drop it in the comments. Write it proudly, not for them, but for you. Show yourself, show the world, because you are the anchor that holds steady in the storm. You are the flame that burns through the darkest nights. You are the master of your own mind. And when you reclaim that kind of power, nothing and no one can ever take it from you. Number 5. The flip they never saw coming. Picture this, my friends. Imagine you're playing a game where your opponent is grinning, convinced they've already won. They're so sure of their victory that they stop paying attention. They relax, throw their guard down, and bask in the fantasy that you're done. To them, you're finished, an easy win. But then, right when they least expect it, you make the one move they never saw coming. And in that single moment, everything flips. That's the beauty of your silence. They thought you were a chapter closed, a book they'd already finished reading. But what they didn't realize was that your silence wasn't the ending. It was the rewriting of the story. They thought you were defeated, when really you were only gathering your strength. They thought you were gone, when really you were transforming. See, while they laughed, while they mocked, while they danced in their false sense of triumph, you were working in the shadows. You were healing, rebuilding, evolving. They assumed your silence meant weakness, but they misunderstood the power of stillness. They thought the game was over, but they never knew you were the kind of player who saves their strongest move for last. It's like a seed buried deep beneath the soil. To the outside world, it looks dead, irrelevant, forgotten. People walk over it every day without a second thought. But beneath the surface, something unstoppable is happening. Roots are forming, life is stirring, energy is gathering. And then, without warning, that seed breaks through the ground, taller, stronger, and more unstoppable than anyone imagined. That's you. They thought they buried you. But in reality, they planted you, and now you've grown into a force they never expected. The philosopher Lao Tzu once said, "Silence is a source of great strength." That's what they never understood. Silence isn't empty, it's full. Silence isn't weakness, it's potential. When you went quiet, you weren't disappearing, you were becoming. And here's what really shocks them. The flip they never saw coming isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It's not about throwing their betrayal in their face or proving them wrong in some grand scene. No, the flip is your transformation. It's the moment you stopped explaining yourself, the moment you stopped needing their validation, the moment you stopped playing their game altogether. While they were busy waiting for you to beg, you were moving on. While they thought you were stuck in the past, you were stepping into the future. By the time they finally notice the change, it'll be too late. The person they left behind, the one they thought they could control, no longer exists. And what they'll see instead is someone unshakable, someone thriving, someone who doesn't need their attention, their apology, or their approval. That's the real flip, realizing you never needed them at all. The poet Rumi said, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." And isn't that the truth? Every heartbreak they caused, every rejection, every silent dismissal, it all became fuel. Each scar became a doorway where strength poured in. They thought they were breaking you, but they were chiseling you into something indestructible. And now you're unstoppable. They expected you to remain frozen in pain, reliving what they did, waiting for closure. But instead, you outgrew their world. While they were replaying the same old games, you built a new life. While they were clinging to control, you discovered freedom. The flip they never saw coming isn't revenge. It's your peace. It's your joy. It's your silence echoing louder than any confrontation ever could. Because here's the thing. People who play games expect noise. They expect drama, tears, endless back and forth. But when you respond with nothing, that terrifies them. Silence forces them to face themselves, and that's the one thing they were running from all along. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." And that, my friends, is exactly what you've done. Your greatest move wasn't revenge. It was freedom. It was cutting the strings. It was walking away with your dignity intact and your future wide open. They thought they were the main character in your story. They thought your silence was about them. But you've rewritten the script. The spotlight has shifted. You are the hero now. You are the one who rose without needing their permission. You are the one who thrived without their recognition. You are the one who reclaimed everything they thought they stole. So let them laugh now, let them believe they've won, because while they're trapped in their same tired games, you're living in a different league. You've become the ending they never saw coming, and the beginning they'll never escape. Say it with me, my friends. I am the flip they never saw coming. Drop it in the comments. Own it, breathe it, live it, because that's who you are now. The move they never predicted, the storm they never prepared for, the transformation they never believed was possible. And the best part, you didn't need to raise your voice, you didn't need to chase, you didn't need revenge. All it took was silence, and becoming everything they said you couldn't be. Number 6. They were never the prize. You are. Imagine a hunter chasing a shimmering mirage in the desert, blinded by thirst and convinced they've spotted a treasure chest overflowing with gold. With every step, their hunger grows. They run harder, faster, desperate to reach it. And when they finally get there, panting and exhausted, what do they find? Nothing. Just heat waves. An illusion that vanished the moment they touched it. That's them. They strutted out of your life, believing they were the prize, believing you were the one crawling in the sand, desperate for a sip of their presence, starving for their love, dying for their validation. In their mind, they were the treasure, the rare gem, the one you'd never replace. They thought their absence would shatter you. They thought walking away would leave you hollow and gasping. Oh, how wrong they were. The truth is simple but brutal. The prize was never them. It was you. It was always you. But they were too arrogant, too self-absorbed, too lost in their inflated sense of importance to ever see it. They wore their ego like armor, convinced they were untouchable, convinced you'd spend the rest of your life chasing a ghost. But ghosts can't hold value. Mirages can't quench thirst. Illusions can't last forever. And one day, you saw through the fog. You realized they weren't the prize at all. They were the mirage, a trick of the desert sun, an empty shell dressed up as gold. Let's get honest. Who was the one who brought love into the relationship? Who sacrificed? Who stayed loyal? Who kept showing up even when things got hard? Who gave time, energy, and pieces of their soul just to hold things together? That was you. You were the one pouring from a cup they never refilled. You were the one adding value to their life while they mistook themselves for the gift. They weren't the prize, they were the taker, the collector of your loyalty, the thief of your energy, the consumer of your love, and all the while they made you believe you should be grateful to have them. They wanted you to think their presence made you whole, when the truth was, it was your light making their shadows bearable. The poet Maya Angelou once said, "Never make someone a priority when all you are to them is an option." And that's exactly what you did, isn't it? You made them your everything while they made you their convenience. You put them first while they left you on the shelf, waiting, hoping, begging for scraps. But now your vision is clear. You've stepped out of the desert haze. They thought being chased made them valuable. They thought your desire proved they were rare. But here's the truth. Real worth isn't found in being chased. Real worth comes from being irreplaceable, and that's who you are. So ask yourself, what did they really offer you? Lies, manipulation, empty promises whispered just to keep you hooked, late-night games where they held your heart hostage while they played hero in their own mind. That's not treasure. That's trash dressed in gold foil. Meanwhile, you were offering something real. Authenticity, loyalty, depth. You were the one staying when it was hard. You were the one who believed when no one else did. You were the one who gave love without conditions. They were never the source of value. You were. They weren't rare. You were. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." And doesn't that sting when you apply it here? They always wanted your attention, your energy, your love, your forgiveness. They wanted, wanted, wanted. But what did they ever give in return? Almost nothing. And now they've lost the best thing they ever had. They thought walking away would prove their superiority, that you'd crumble without them, that someone else could easily replace you. But here's the twist. It's them who are replaceable. They're the ones searching for shallow validation in empty places, replaying the same tired games with new faces. And deep down, they know they'll never find another you. Because you are the prize, not because of what you gave them, but because of who you are. You are kind, you are loyal, you love deeply, you show up fully, you are rare in a world where most people hide behind masks. And the sad truth for them is they'll never have access to that again. The philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us." That's the part they never saw. Your worth was always inside you. It was never defined by whether they stayed or left. It was never defined by how they treated you. They didn't create your value, and they could never take it away. So let them keep the fantasy. Let them keep thinking they were special. Let them keep believing they were the treasure. None of that matters anymore, because you're living beyond the illusion. You've already reclaimed your power. You've already stepped into a world where you know your worth, where you set the standard, where you are the prize. And when they see you now, rising, thriving, living free, that's when the regret will hit. Not because they suddenly love you, not because they've changed, but because they finally realize they lost access to something irreplaceable. And the door to you, it's locked, forever. Say it with me. I am the prize. Drop it in the comments. Declare it. Own it. Show yourself. Show the world. Because while they were pretending to be rare, you've been priceless all along. And now they'll never touch that treasure again. Number 7. The fall they never saw coming. Picture a tower standing tall in the distance. From the outside, it looks unshakable, reaching for the sky, like it was built to last forever. But step closer, and you see the truth. It wasn't built on stone, it was built on sand. Its bricks weren't earned, they were stolen. Its walls weren't crafted with care, but patched together with lies, manipulation, and false promises. To the world, it looks grand. But on the inside, it's hollow. Cracks snake through its foundation, waiting for the right storm to bring it all crashing down. That tower is them. They spent their whole life pretending to be stronger, smarter, more desirable than they really were. They wore fake confidence like armor, convincing everyone around them they had it all figured out. They stepped on people to climb higher, treating love as a tool, loyalty as disposable, hearts as stepping stones. And for a while it worked. They had people fooled. They had you fooled. But time is undefeated. Time exposes what's real and burns away what's fake. And no matter how carefully they built their tower of lies, no matter how much they smiled and pretended, the fall was written from the beginning. At first, they couldn't see it. They were too busy basking in their own arrogance, too convinced of their superiority to notice the cracks beneath their feet. They walked away from you without hesitation, certain they'd broken you, certain you'd crumble, certain they'd walk into a better life while you stayed stuck. They thought silence meant they had won. But silence wasn't defeat. It was transformation. While they chased shallow validation, while they filled their nights with distractions, you were rebuilding. Quietly, steadily, powerfully. You stopped chasing. You stopped explaining. You stopped handing them your energy like it was free. And the day you let go of them, that was the day you were reborn. They thought your silence was weakness. In truth, it was the sound of your rebirth echoing through their hollow tower. And while you rose, they repeated the same toxic patterns. New faces, same games, more lies, more manipulation, more hollow connections. Every move they made only deepened the cracks in their foundation. They thought they'd moved on from you, but what they were really doing was digging their own grave. And now, whether they admit it or not, they've fallen. The poet Percy Shelley once wrote, "Fear not for the future, weep not for the past, but they do weep. They weep for the love they threw away, for the opportunities they destroyed, for the kind of loyalty they'll never feel again. They cry in silence, in places no one sees, where the mask slips and the truth hits. They'll keep pretending, of course. They'll post pictures, act unbothered, laugh too loudly in public. But the thing about pretending is it never lasts forever. At night, when no one's around, when there's no crowd to fool, the truth suffocates them. The tower collapses inside their mind. The weight of every lie, every betrayal, every wrong choice presses down until they can't escape the memory of you. They'll remember how you gave them patience when they deserved frustration. They'll remember how you fought for them when they barely lifted a hand for you. They'll remember how you believed in them even after they gave you every reason not to. And, most of all, they'll remember how you always came back until the day you didn't. That's the fall they never saw coming. They believed they were untouchable, that they could play games forever without consequence, that they could break trust and hearts without ever paying the price. But life has a way of collecting its debts. Always. Epictetus once said, "Character is destiny," and their destiny was built from the bricks of their own lies. They could fool the world, but they could never escape themselves. That's why the emptiness is eating them alive. That's why the void grows deeper with every fake connection they chase, because what they lost was irreplaceable. They didn't just lose the version of you they once knew. They lost the future you, the stronger you, the healed you, the unstoppable you, the one they'll never manipulate again, never gaslight, never control. They didn't just lose a lover or a friend, they lost their last chance at something real. And one day, when reality slams into them, they'll understand. They didn't just lose someone, they lost the best thing that ever happened to them. But by then, you'll be so far gone, so elevated, so beyond their reach, that even their memories of you will feel like chasing another mirage. They'll search, they'll beg, they'll try to replace you, but people like you don't come around twice. People like you are one of one, and when they finally accept that truth, that's when the ruins of their tower will fully bury them. Marcus Aurelius once said, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." And while they've been trapped in cycles of games, failures and regret, you've been living, truly living, fiercely, fully, free. And that is the fall they never saw coming. Say it with me. I am their final lesson. Drop it in the comments, declare it, own it, live it, because while they're stuck in the ruins of a life they built on lies, you're thriving in a future they'll never touch. That is the ending they can't escape. That is the regret they'll carry forever. Say it again. I rise beyond their reach, because you've already won.